I have a very special message for you, America. There are two shows, and you're on the second of them. The first is Cord Killers. It tells you everything you need to know about how to watch TV, how to get it, how to stream it, what devices to use. But it means nothing if you don't watch television. So, America, I ask you, please watch some television, come back here, and we will spoil it for you on Spoilerin Time. This week on Spoilerin Time, we're going to talk about Fargo, episode 6 of season 4, The Mandalorian, episode 1 of season 2, and The Larry Sanders Show penultimate episodes 9 and 10 of season 6. I'm Tom Merritt, and my running mate here is Brian Brushwood.
Heck yeah, dude. As we said, there are only two shows, Spoilerin Time and Cord Killers, and the 3 shows that we happen to be talking about. Which one do you want to jump in on?
I thought you were going to say there's only 2 shows. The one you do the day you go in and the one you watch the day you go out.
Yes.
Let's talk about Fargo, episode 6 of season 4, entitled Camp Elegance, where I was a little bit surprised we lost Gaetano. I thought he was going to hang around for a while longer.
I did, man, I mean, I hate to say this because I watched it all of 5 hours ago. Like, I thought we lost Gaetano when they shot him in the freaking head. And then they said, no, he's breathing. And I'm like, I don't know, guys. Looked a bit like you shot him in the freaking head. Then you rolled him up and you pulled him out on a carpet or whatever. But then he's like laughing and angry as he's getting punched in the face. Did they show us a dead body, or... It certainly was heavily implied that at any moment, Wario was about to be dead and Mario was going to get a telegram and it was going to be very sad.
No, you know what? You're right. We may not have lost Gaetano, which would be less surprising to me. We also, however, see Rabbi risk his life to save Loy's son, killing one of his own clan. Well, not his own clan, I guess, his own gang.
That may be so far the most Fargo moment that we've seen so far, which is somebody who does the right thing but is not rewarded for it, in that the dude clearly was told to take out the kid and then decides not to, but then pays the price anyway, as if he did. Well,
but that guy was going to kill the kid.
No, he wasn't. Sorry, before Rabbi got him, like, he had the gun out, shaking. He made the decision and he pulled the gun back. So who knows if he was about to do it
I see.
A minute later. But in that moment, it, of course, was tied together that he said, no, I'm not going to kill this kid. And then took a bullet in the chest from...
We'll never know
correct.
what he was really going to do. Yeah.
That felt a very Fargo moment. Likewise, This episode seemed to spell out something that you've been telling me since the very beginning of the series, which is our character, our proxy during this story is the proxy of the innocent, of the person who wants to rat out all of the decay and the evil happening in the world of Fargo. And we saw an extended scene where there was the letter referenced, and we see a celebration of our teenage daughter of the Morticians. I felt more at home with this episode than I have in most of this season. Now, having said that, I'm still not entirely comfortable with this season, but I felt better about this episode than most of the others.
Yeah, I agree. I'm enjoying the whole thing. I'm enjoying the cinematography. I'm enjoying the acting. I'm enjoying the period, and the story maybe not being as strong as other seasons of Fargo has not bothered me in the least. But this episode carried the story forward. Right? We actually have some stakes out there. I guess you're right. I guess Gaetano isn't dead. So that's going to blow up in Josto's face. It's funny. I look at these IMDb descriptions to kind of, prod my memory along. And remember I mentioned the one last week about Orietta. Orietta goes crazy is what this description says. I remember Orietta sitting down and talking to the hospital administrator and weaseling her way out of the letter and saying, oh, that's just crazy stuff, and let's negotiate this. I don't recall her going crazy.
The closest, and again, Tom, we've talked about your longstanding addiction to IMDb descriptions for a long time, and this is your intervention. The most generous interpretation I can give is, remember, she is listening to somebody suffering, and she's sitting there, arms crossed, like, oh man, this guy really seems like,
I can't kill this guy.
Exactly. And she kind of bangs her head against the wall a little bit.
Oh, right. She does bang her head against the wall.
I don't know how crazy that is getting, but
not what I would have pictured had someone told me Orietta goes crazy in this episode.
I got to be honest. My favorite part of this episode was seeing what looked like Gaetano surprising both you and me by getting killed. And I was really disappointed that he wasn't killed. And I was really disappointed. And that's part of the reason that I'm, was asking you, like, wait, was he? Because
I was pleasantly surprised at the idea that they would surprise me.
Yes, right? But
right?
then they didn't follow through with that.
I thought Gaetano was going to be Josto's, nemesis all the way through the end. That's interesting. What are they going to do with that? Because that does take a lot of the story off the table. But yeah, if he's not actually dead and he gets back out and he's got a vengeance, I mean, it's not bad.
Well,
it's what they've been building up to. But
even if he's just held captive as a pawn, that's less interesting to me than the surprise of, oh wait, you thought that Josto was getting caught in a vice between Wario. I can never remember his name. Wario and Joy. Joy, that's my dog's name. Loy. And then instead to break that dynamic was really, really interesting for about 10 minutes, and then it wasn't.
Yeah. I don't really have a whole lot more to say about this episode because this, I guess because we're partway through the season now, we're like just past halfway through the season. Is that right?
Yeah, I did like the brief flashback with a Dr. Senator moment, just because every second with that guy and character was awesome.
It was a delight. I was like, wait, he's not dead, except I knew he was dead. So I was like, this is imagination.
Yeah,
okay.
and it's like, there's also part of me that's like, yeah, we get it. Like that's great that you're now saying we're at war. There's no more screwing around. But it's like, I think we all felt like this is where we were headed.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts on Fargo?
No. In outside of just, let me be clear. There's no such thing as a bad episode or a bad season of Fargo. But at some point you have to pick some that are better than others. And I can pick several seasons that are better than this season.
I'll put it this way. This is a Fargo that I can enjoy quite well because I have watched other seasons of Fargo. And it's giving me little pieces that I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's fun. It would not have the same effect on me had I never seen the other seasons of Fargo.
I don't know what I would make of this if I hadn't seen Fargo. I think maybe the closest I could categorize it with would be The Shield or The Wire or something like that. But even that would be a very poor fit. That's a really interesting question. In a world where I had never seen any Fargo anything, how would I categorize this? And I don't have an answer for you.
To me, this is a stretch, but forgive me. To me, it's like Shiner Blonde. Give me Shiner Blonde without ever having drank Shiner Bock.
And you think you're having
and I'll be
Miller
like,
Lite.
Why are you giving me a imitation Coors?
Yeah.
But having had Shiner Bock, I'm like, oh, Shiner Blonde. Okay, that's kind of
that's
cool.
cute.
Yeah.
You're trying to do a 99 calorie version of that thing that I love. Yeah. No.
I like
okay.
that.
Yep. I'm with you.
All right. Let's talk about The Mandalorian, or as I call it, Fargo, or Justified, or Deadwood, or all three. Episode 1, The Marshal.
I cannot decide what I feel in my heart, because what they did, the cynic in me, the 17-year-old in me, wants to say that is the cheesiest, most obvious, stupidest, most pandering thing you could possibly have done. And then the 45-year-old in me turns to the camera and says, and I loved it.
I was laughing. I was like, okay. And I tweeted this too. Casting directors and Timothy Oliphant are trolling us at this point, right?
Right?
Seth Bullock was a marshal. Raylan Givens was a marshal. It was funny when we started watching Fargo this season and said, oh, look, Timothy Oliphant plays a marshal. have them have Timothy Oliphant wearing Boba Fett's armor show up as a marshal, having changed the name of the character from sheriff to marshal from the Chuck Wendig novels, just cracked me up. I was like, okay, fine. I can't, I didn't have the same like 16-year-old me reaction, but I gave in immediately. Maybe that's the difference between 45 and 50. I was like, that's great. That's great. Yes, sure. He's always a marshal no matter what.
So you didn't know anything about this episode going into this one?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah. I knew Timothy Oliphant was in the season, but I didn't put it together.
I guess I hadn't even really held on to the fact that that name was associated with the season. Here's what I definitely reacted to is, there's a Mandalorian. You go to, I sort of bristled, no surprise to you, I'm sure, at the fact that it's on Tatooine. And it's like this planet that is literally defined as being the ass end of the universe that nobody cares about, somehow is the subject of every Star Wars, everything ever. That's fine. Here's another city that begins with the word most. That's fine. I'm past all that. And then up comes Boba Fett's armor. I'm like, ugh, who's this guy? I'm already, sort of clenching my fists, and I can't stop myself. And I'm trying to be cool about it as somebody who loved the expanded universe novels in the 1990s or whatever. And then the moment that got me was he comes in, he sits down, and he reaches up and starts pulling off the helmet. And I felt a visceral like, what are you doing? You just take off you don't take off your helmet. What are you doing? And then there was this total disconnect as I'm just like, Ray, what? By the way, in real life, what happened was I hit pause and I showed my kids. We went back and explained that scene from The Good Place where Timothy Oliphant shows up and stuff. And I'm like, that's the joke they're doing. And they were like, yeah, we get it, Dad. Whatever. He plays a marshal. That's cool. And I'm like, no, it's better than that.
It's so much more.
Beyond that moment, number one, man, Timothy Oliphant is a national treasure. Am I the only one who saw like the weird penis measuring contest with their two giant penises that they were riding on? They cut to like, you're wearing Mandalorian armor. So are you. We have a bad guy to take out. Let's go. And it cuts to the Dune Sea, and then
on the scooters,
right? Yeah, then you see the Mandalorian come up with a big, riding a big old giant penis, and then you see Raylan Givens showing up in a giant or bigger giant penis.
It was a piece of a pod racer.
Yeah. Oh man, it's a piece, that's for sure. But the point is, at any rate, they come together and then they defeat the dragon.
I didn't spend too much time thinking about it, but you're absolutely right. That's what that scene was. Yeah.
This was a little bit cartoonish by the numbers. Like, I like the nods that they're making to traditional cowboys and Indians, serials.
Oh, this is Rio Bravo.
This one was maybe more on the nose than I would normally like.
Shot Rio Bravo at some point.
I wouldn't be surprised. It's just a little bit, like just barely a little bit more. Like, imagine having some ginger ale and it's got a little more kick than you would like. And that's what I felt like on this.
I adored this episode, partly because they didn't start on Tatooine. I felt like they did a good job justifying, and I say that fully knowing we're talking about Timothy Oliphant, but they justified why we went to Tatooine, right? They started us on another planet. Rather than, they could have just started us on Tatooine. I got word, but they gave us another planet. They're like, no, this is a wider universe. Check out this graffiti. Those of you who know Sabine from Rebels will get a little kick like, oh, maybe we're going to see Sabine. We don't. We see an underworld. We see the used universe. They get us to Tatooine by explaining why. Because he even says like, man, I was already there. There's no Mandalorians there. And it's like, well, there's a place you didn't think of. And then it turns out, well, it's not in fact a Mandalorian. This is why you hadn't heard about it, because it's not a Mandalorian. And now we're sucked into a side quest because he's not actually going to get a Mandalorian. He's not going to get what he came there for. He's been, as he mentioned several times, quested to return the child. This is not going to get him there. But he has another obligation, which is, that's Mandalorian armor and you're not Mandalorian, so I have to take it. And I can't leave until I take it. And he also has been established in season 1 that he likes to help people out. So all of that led me nicely into being, okay, well, this is why we're doing this. It's all been set out well. You didn't just throw stuff in. You didn't just pick Tatooine because, hey, cool, Tatooine again. I felt it was well woven in, and so I forgot that we were on Tatooine. I forgot that that's why we're there. The whole Mos Pelgo stuff. I mean, that's just like Ville. We have so many towns that are named Ville. Like, there's just a bunch of towns that's the local thing. That didn't bug me either. I'll be honest. I was way into this episode until they started fighting the Krayt Dragon, aka the Sandworm, and then it slowed down for me. Then it became a more traditional Western story. It's not that I didn't like it at that point, but that's when I finally started to notice I was watching something. Whereas that first half, up until they're actually fighting, I was like, man, I'm just enjoying every single drop of this. I'm loving that Dan Doherty from the Deadwood series is the bartender.
Yes,
and Seth Bullock there, who's really playing Raylan Givens, is involved at the same time. I loved every minute of that.
So I think you and I are in agreement in that there was some moment that stuff started to feel slow. My overall vibe is, all things being equal, would it kill you to come up with a different desert planet for this to be on? Would it have to be Tatooine?
No, because I think that would be being more more pretentious,
precious,
to just invent another desert planet. Like, there's a reason to bring you to Tatooine. It fits in the story. We're familiar with it, but they didn't play to us. They didn't go to the cantina and we see the band. They're like, hey, Tatooine's just a place in this universe, and it's not like we spend all our time there. So I was fine with that.
Yeah, it's just that, and this is a personal beef. I'll be the first to admit it. We spend, as viewers, an awful lot of time at this, quote unquote, insignificant little planet on the corner of the galaxy. But
it's insignificant by reputation in The New Hope. It becomes much more significant later.
Yes, and I suppose, and now we're into fan weeds, where it's like, the more important you make the planet, the more you undercut the original narrative, from where I'm coming from.
But it was insignificant until, Luke Skywalker arrives from there. And that now it should be overrun with tourists.
Ooh, that would be a fun thing to see.
That's what I keep
everybody
waiting to see, is
like to paint red, shine a
right?
spotlight on everything wrong with the storytelling, where it's just like, you could stand here. This is the place where Luke said, or this is where Obi-Wan said, "You'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy," or whatever. But the oh, doggone it, there was a second thing. Hey man. Was the problem that made it boring for you in the last half that they weren't spending enough time going, and doing Tuscan sign language?
No, man, I like that stuff.
Really?
I dig that. I think that adds depth to the Sand People characters, to the Tuscan Raiders, to the Tuscan Tatooinians. I like that it is actually rehabilitating a little of that kind of storytelling, where it's like, hey, these folks aren't saints just because they live differently, but also they're not evil. So let's actually speak their language and communicate. And that all worked for me.
I mean,
what slowed it down for me was actually the fight on the Krayt Dragon. I'm like, I didn't quite understand how the plan didn't work, and then why suddenly he could electrocute it from the inside.
Agreed.
And it was fine. It was still exciting.
And again, like I have those fleeting thoughts, but my 16-year-old daughter was like, wait, so why was he able to just burst out of him, and that Bantha was exploded, but he was fine? And why was there electricity, and why? I'm like, hey, that's Raylan,
Yeah. And honestly, at that point, even though that slowed down a little bit for me, I wasn't bored. I was having enough good times that I was like, yeah, fine. So he electrocuted his way out of a Krayt Dragon, whatever. That's cool. All right. Any other thoughts on La Mandalorian?
I rather liked the graffiti in the background of the opening scene. Like I loved. I don't think we've seen what I would read as kind of an authentic urban sprawl, urban underground graffiti kind of situation. I dug that.
In fact, I watched this episode twice, and I went back and paused and kind of looked around. Because again, Sabine Wren from Star Wars Rebels is a graffiti artist, so kind of hoping like maybe that's a tip of the hat towards that character.
Speaking of tips of the hat, they also nodded to the Great Dragon Pearl, which has shown up in multiple pieces of the expanded universe fiction.
Oh yeah,
and
there's a lot of apparently the Obi-Wan story from the Legends, as they call it now, expanded universe was this really fed into this story a lot.
Yeah, I don't know the specifics about that, but I
haven't read that book either, but
Yeah,
people who
okay.
have told me there's a lot from it. And of course, the last thing we should mention and acknowledge before we leave is that the guy who played Jango Fett and all the clones in the movies shows up at the end without armor on, implying that that's Boba Fett.
Oh, wow. Wow, did I miss that? Wow. That's a thing. Wow. Okay, great. Now I know.
Yeah. I mean, if that's not Boba Fett, that's a clone trooper.
Sure.
Right? Because it's that guy,
Yeah.
right, playing it. Yeah.
Dude, that's great. Okay, I was wondering what the significance, because I felt the oddness of the pacing, but there was nobody there to whisper in my ear what the point was.
Like, oh yeah, that's Jango.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go. Glad I could provide that service. That's The Mandalorian, season 2, episode 1. Let's talk about the Larry Sanders Show. Really, the last 2 episodes before the finale. The finale is broken into 2 parts, but these are the last 2 episodes before the finale. Just the perfect blendship and putting the gay back in litigation.
Bryce, real quick, show me the IMDb ratings on both of these, because I thought the second one was much better.
Sure. Just the Perfect Blendship has 7.5 out of 10, and Putting the Gay Back in Litigation is 7.7 out of 10.
Okay, so the Blendship one is where he is seeking permission to date who I assume was a hot starlet in the late 90s, to get the blessing of Jeff Goldblum, who is
You don't know who Gina Gershon is?
No, I don't remember. I have no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Should I?
Yeah, she's no longer the hot starlet. You're correct about that. But she was. They mentioned the movies that she was in.
Cocktail, Red
Showgirls,
Heat,
and
Showgirls.
what's the other one?
Face Off in 97. Bound.
Yeah, that's not
The Insider.
Showgirls, and there was one that really was the thing at the time that I'm blanking on now.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, Gina
Pretty in
Gershon
Peak,
would have.
maybe?
That's one that doesn't wear well because everybody's like
Well,
moved on.
and maybe that's part of why it didn't land super well with me is I didn't have a resonance with the actress or the roles that she was playing at the time. Also, Jeff Goldblum, 100% in. Jeff Goldblum as just a guy who maybe dated her. It's never really spelled out. Just like, also not a good communicator, who says follow your instincts and then rubs a foot. All of that sort of left me like, okay. I wasn't feeling that episode as much as I really dug the litigation episode.
I will say that I agree with you that it was not immediately apparent that Gina Gershon and Jeff Goldblum had previously dated as someone watching this in 2020. I mean, Tom, did you get that? I don't feel like they spelled it out.
I did. I don't know if they actually did date. I got that from the show.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Because she mentions something about Goldblum and Larry catches it as like, well, that was weird. And then it slowly is revealed. I didn't get the idea that was something you were supposed to know. I thought it was revealed slowly the way Larry understood it in the show.
Oh, okay.
Or all too quickly as Larry internalized it on the show. like basically what happened is she says, tell Jeff I say hi. And Larry goes full neurotic mode and suddenly is freaked out. Yeah, exactly.
No.
Also, the Sarah Silverman.
I also
stuff
love
was on
seeing
that.
Sarah Silverman in these things. So that was great. She was excellent in this episode.
It was really fun to be watching this episode and have to pause it and go back and try to figure out if she's playing herself or playing a character, because this show spawned so many people who went on to such successful careers that I'm just like is she in universe or out of universe? That was cool.
Yeah. And then there was Hank and the colonoscopy in that one.
Colonoscopy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That all sort of fell flat for me.
Yeah,
that felt like a season 3 bit stuck in a season 6 episode.
Well, and also like I might have been more into it is if maybe Hank had just give me a paragraph or two about why you feel entitled for your butt doctor to only look at your butt monogamously and not look at other people's butts.
Because he was attracted to, he wanted to date her.
Well, yes.
Yeah,
but
there's not much more to it, Brian. There's no paragraph to be had. It's a joke. The joke is I'm jealous like I would be about people having sex with her, even though it's just a colonoscopy.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, colonoscopy.
You know what would make that a funnier joke is if you had him try to explain to someone who didn't understand why he felt entitled to be monogamous with his...
I don't think that makes it funny when you try to explain.
Oh, no.
The joke either lands or it doesn't.
No. Okay, like it's not inherently... Okay, like we all agree he's not entitled to monogamy as far as colonoscopies go. What might be funny is hearing this person who we all disagree with try to justify why he feels entitled to monogamy.
Well,
that does sound funny.
I'm leaning the other way. I'm leaning the other way on this, which is this already had too much time spent on it. I don't want any more time spent on it.
Yeah, because I would feel if I was dating someone who was performing colonoscopies, I would feel jealous about it, especially if they are doing the colons of the stars, right? Mm-hmm. And they have a very
all these
touchy,
attractive men taking down their pants. Like, it felt pretty obvious.
I feel like I didn't need more than that.
Things I would love for this. Number one, like I think we all agree that this segment did not develop far enough to be interesting enough. No, because
it's an old joke. Like Hank always falls in love with the professionals that he contracts for other services. And I'm like, really? We're still doing that joke even like right towards the end? Okay.
No, but imagine if she in graphic detail explained the various colons of various famous people, or she justified why he shouldn't be, so possessive about her looking at his colon.
Like that would make you enjoy this episode so much.
All right. I think there's a rich and polyp-filled possibility that we didn't get to explore. But she did.
Listen, I admire you advocating that we check. Jeff Goldblum just being Jeff Goldblum was kind of fun too. Like it's not the Jeff Goldblum now who's playing Jeff Goldblum. It was just him being normal.
Isn't it weird to see him back to like, oh, this is like if you turn down the contrast on Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah. Right.
Almost down to human, but not quite. This is what it would look like.
I imagine this is what he's like in person rather than on camera.
Yes.
Like the way we saw him here. And then putting the gay back in litigation, as of its time as it is, did strike me as progress within the Larry Sanders universe on gay issues.
I loved most of this episode. I certainly liked it a lot more than the other one. I felt like they tipped it a little too hard in the early Phil Brian interaction where he said something where I think the joke was he was pretending to be gay or whatever, but it was so on the nose. We're like, oh, let me guess, he's got latent homosexual tendencies or whatever. And man, I think it's just the difference that 22 years makes, where what was very clear and very obvious and very unsurprising later showed up. But having said all of that, it's hard to go back and retroactively grade on a curve, but it feels like a fairly progressive episode for the time. I don't know.
Well, what compared to earlier episodes in Larry Sanders,
where the whole joke was, and you like. Sorry, bleep that. I guess I don't know. But
we also had
I did like the episode, and I liked the territory they were tackling. I just feel like story-wise, they telegraphed way too early and way too obviously for where we are now.
Then we also had the side plot of the goodbye video, which gave us some cameos from Drew Barrymore, Ed Begley Jr., and Bruno Kirby back again. Lots of Bruno Kirby in Larry Sanders Show. I think I like the other episode better than this one. This one was just okay.
Wow. No. I like this way. Bryce, you got to break the tie.
I really liked the B plot a lot with Larry and the Ileana Douglas, and he's trying to set her up and make her a great guest. And I think that might have been my favorite story. Wow, the Sarah Silverman stuff last week was also really good. I think
like that.
Yeah, I think maybe it's the Sarah Silverman stuff better for me. I don't know, because it was great. It was great seeing her actually go out and do the material, and her character got a lot of development.
They do a really good job of letting her awkward joke setups linger unpleasantly, because we're all rooting for her. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No. I mean, when she goes on stage on the show and starts to set up, so I'm watching porn and I'm seeing this sexual act happening and the pinky's out, and it's like, it just lingers. And there was this brief moment that I'm like, wait, are they going to set her up to fail and that's the plot? Or are they going to, and then instead she nails the joke and the awkwardness pays off and all that stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. So I think that was enough to push me over the edge. I don't know.
Yeah. The Ileana Douglas plot I forgot about, which I think is telling. But I did like the fact that she nails it, because I thought, we're going to see her, talk on and it's going to trigger some crazy hijinks, but she actually does she takes direction well. She does everything Larry said, and then because she does well, she then has a crisis of confidence about whether, if she hadn't done well,
what their relationship.
Isn't that the punch out going to credits, which I felt like was pretty weak, because I felt like in the real world, Larry would say, I value you as a person, but, let's recognize that the gig is the gig, and I wanted you to succeed at the gig, but...
Do you think real life Larry would say that?
I don't think Larry's a real person in real life.
You said, I think, okay.
Fair point. Yeah. I thought it was kind of a weak punch out on that too.
I feel like this season has weak punch outs. I don't know. They're not the fire buttons that they used to be in the
They only got one more chance.
I was about to say, it's almost as though everybody was kind of dialed out, and they decided that maybe this should be the last season, because
they're saving the last punch out for
not
the very
much
last
to explore.
Episode. Yeah. Well, that'll be next week. We'll be talking about Flip, which, depending on where you see it, is either listed as an episode, the finale, or a two-parter, part 1 and part 2. But I think it is meant to be consumed all as a piece, which is the way we'll be looking at it.
Yeah.
May 31st, 1998.
Finally, we're going to get a piece.
We're going to get our Sanders Larried.
We're going to get Sandy.
Getting Sandy with it. Any other thoughts on Larry Sanders Show?
No, dude.
Episodes?
I'm stoked about our next library watch. I've really enjoyed this. I forget who were the folks that pushed for it at the beginning, but thank you, Bryce, for being on board with the rewatch and all this. It's been a real treat.
It's been great going back. It's like a time capsule. It is literally a time capsule.
That's the Larry Sanders Show, 609-610. Next week, Fargo, episode 7 of season 4, The Mandalorian 202, and Larry Sanders Show 611. You can get this episode faster. If you're a patron, you did, and you're enjoying it before everyone else. Enjoy. If not, you're late, but it's still good, and you can get it earlier by becoming a patron at patreon.com/cordkillers. Talk to you next time.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.